Hey, I'm Abby, and welcome back to the Life Work Balance YouTube channel. Today, I would like to talk to you about 10 things that you should not do in an interview. But before we jump into that, please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you're looking forward to learning a little bit about what you should not do in an interview. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so that you can receive life work balance advice delivered directly to you every Sunday. First and foremost, when it comes to an interview, the way that you physically show up and appear is very important because this first interview is your first impression for the hiring team. It's likely that you will work directly with some of the people who are on this interview panel or the person who is interviewing you. So it is important that your appearance is up to snuff for the interview. This means that you absolutely should not dress casually. I have been in a couple of interviews where the person who we are interviewing shows up in a tank top or a t-shirt or in clothing that just isn't very professional. Now, I'm not saying that you can never wear a tank top or never wear a t-shirt or casual clothing to an interview. However, I strongly advise against it in any situation. The reason why I am suggesting that there might be an opportunity or a situation where you could wear a t-shirt or a tank top or dress casually for an interview is depending on the actual environment that you will be working in, that type of clothing may be appropriate. However, I highly recommend that if you are going to go to an interview, that you dress at least one level above the expected dress code for the organization or type of position. So if you will be working in an office environment, chances are you will be dressed business casual. This means that you will be wearing slacks and a nice shirt and probably dress shoes. So if you're going to be going to an interview for an in-office job, you may want to dress it up a little bit more. Maybe you wear a dress or a sport coat or blazer. Maybe you add a tie in. It also comes down to your physical appearance with your hair and or makeup. So you do not want to show up looking disheveled or like you just rolled out of bed. You want to put some effort into how you appear because you want to make a good, positive first impression. This is the case both for in-person interviews as well as virtual interviews. Even though we may be working from home and having virtual interviews where I'm sitting in my bedroom interviewing for a position, that does not mean that it's suddenly okay for me to dress in my pajamas or in a tank top or t-shirt. I still need to dress the part or one step above the part when it comes to any interview. So tip number 1, dress the part. Do not underdress or dress too casually because the way that you show up visually to the interviewers will impact how they feel about your overall interview. Tip number 2 of what you should not do in an interview. Do not blame your answers on nerves. Don't even say, I'm really sorry, I'm just really nervous. Don't even go down that road. One of the traits and characteristics that employers are looking for in potential employees is flexibility, adaptability, and how they might perform under pressure. So even if you're feeling really nervous, the interviewers likely know and understand that you have a few nerves and that you are feeling nervous. There's no need to name that you are feeling nervous. Obviously, this is an interview, the stakes feel high, so chances are you do have some nerves and you're feeling nervous. No reason you need to name or say that you're feeling nervous. The reason behind this is because saying that you are nervous and saying that after some of your answers may actually show the interviewers that you are not confident in your answers. So in addition to not feeling like you work well under pressure, not feeling like you're flexible or adaptable, they may also feel that your confidence is too low for the position. So do not say that you are nervous. Tip number 3. Now this may seem obvious, but one of the things you should never do in an interview is not answer the interviewer's questions. Now, obviously, when the interviewers are asking you questions, the expectation is that you're going to answer their questions. However, I've been in many interviews where the person that we are interviewing doesn't actually answer the question that the interviewers have asked of them. By not being able to answer the question that's being asked, that shows the interviewers that the interviewee is not listening very well, cannot form thoughtful or concise answers to questions when they're under pressure. So, if you're worried about not answering the interviewer's question, you can take notes during your interview, whether this is in person or virtually. So just jot down a couple of the key words and phrases that you heard during the question, and that will help you make sure that you hit each of the pieces of the question that has been asked of you. The other thing that you can do at the end of your answer to a question is ask, did that answer your question? Now, I don't recommend asking that after every single question because, again, that may put the interviewers in a place where they're feeling like you're not answering their questions to the fullest potential, or you don't really know what they were asking, or you're not confident in your answers. So if you are confident in your answer, you feel like you got a good overall response to the question they've asked you, great. But if you are feeling like maybe they're giving you a confused look, or maybe they're writing a lot of notes and seeming confused about your response to that, it's okay to follow up and ask, did I answer your question, or did that answer your question? So again, don't use that response all of the time, but it is appropriate to use it every now and then. Another thing you should not do during an interview is bring up pay. Ideally, you're going to let the interviewers bring up the pay. Now, in a perfect world, the interviewers or the employer would bring up pay during the very first interview. And they would likely ask you, what is your expected salary? Or what are your salary expectations? If they don't ask that question, then they will hopefully give you an idea of what the salary range would be for the position and the hiring range for the position. Now, this doesn't always happen in the first interview or even the second and third interview, but don't bring up pay. If you bring up pay, it will likely feel to the interviewers that you are only in it for the money and you're not in it for the actual job or the organization. So it's important that pay is discussed, but try not to be the first one to bring it up. Fifth, if you were recommended for a position, do not bring up the fact that you were recommended for the position. Bringing this up is kind of like name dropping, and it creates this feel that you almost feel like you are entitled to getting the position. You are given an opportunity to interview for this position, and you may be given more consideration based on the fact that you were referred for the position. But don't bring it up on your own. If it is brought up, make sure that it's the interview team bringing it up to you. They might ask you how you know the person who referred you or how you've worked with them in the past. But do not bring it up if the interview team has not brought it up. That feels like name dropping. It starts to feel like you as the interviewee have this expectation to be moved forward in the next round or be hired into the position by bringing it up. Sixth, there will likely be a question about weaknesses. Do not, under any circumstance, say that you don't have any weaknesses or come off in a way that you are perfect. You need to have some self-awareness, and your answer to this question demonstrates that you are aware that you have some rough edges that might need to be polished, or that you have some areas that you need to work on and that you're working to improve. So if you haven't watched my video about how to answer the question about weaknesses, please go ahead and check that out. I've linked to it in the description below. Tip number 7 of things that you should not do while in your interview. Don't be too enthusiastic. You don't want to come off as that you really need this job, because employers don't want to hire someone who just needs the job. Employers want to hire someone who wants the job. Sure, we all need to make money. We all need to survive. However, if we're going to be in a job, most employers want you to want to be there for more reasons than just taking home a paycheck. So don't be overly enthusiastic about needing the job. You want to be enthusiastic about wanting the job, being excited about the opportunity, working for the organization, growing your skills, becoming a better individual and professional. You do not want it to seem like you are only in it for the money. Tip number 8, Don't come off too cocky or full of yourself or confident. Being overly confident, being overly full of yourself, or cocky will backfire. While these types of personality traits in moderation can be helpful, an employer wants someone who can be confident and who can stand up for what they believe in and has opinions and thoughts and ideas that are their own. Having someone who is over the top cocky, over the top confident is a recipe for disaster. People don't tend to gravitate toward people who are overly cocky or overly confident. That can actually put people off. Employers are wanting someone who can be collaborative and work together with others on a team. And someone who has that type of aura of them that they're just better than everyone else doesn't tend to be a recipe for a good team. So you don't want to come off overly cocky or confident. You want to be sure of your answers. However, you want to also show some vulnerability and that you are human. So don't come off overly cocky or confident. One way to test to see how confident you come off during your interview, because remember, it's a fine line. You don't want to be too confident and you don't want to be not confident enough. You want to be right in the middle. Confidence and cockiness can be sensed via your tone as well as your body language. So I highly, highly recommend that you record yourself doing a practice interview. I also recommend doing an interview with someone else so that you can get feedback from them. You want to remember to use words like we, our, collaborative, and teamwork. If you don't have someone who you trust to give you that realistic feedback about how you appeared during your interview, feel free to contact me and we can work together. I offer mock interviews where we will take some time to answer some interview questions back and forth, and then I will give you feedback on your responses. These will also be recorded, so you will have a copy of our mock interview for you to rewatch and to study to see if you have any interesting phrases or body language or tones that you would like to readjust. Ninth, don't ask the question, what would I do in this job? They posted a job posting, and that job posting likely had a lot of information in it that described what to expect from your position. You need to do your research ahead of time so that you can understand better what to expect from a position like this. And if you're still a little unsure of what you might be doing in a job, it's perfectly okay to ask the question, could you describe what a typical day or week in this position might look like? That is much better than asking, what would I be doing in this position? You can also ask, what can I expect to achieve in my first 30, 60, or 90 days? This not only gives you an idea of the responsibilities and tasks and duties that you might engage in for this position, but it also gives you an idea of their expectations of what you should be achieving in those first 30, 60, and 90 days. And finally, my 10th tip about what not to do in an interview. Do not speak poorly of previous bosses, previous coworkers, or previous organizations. Talking about others negatively in your interview signals to the interview team that you are going to bring some toxic baggage with you. Sure, you may have had a terrible experience with your boss, your coworkers, or an organization in the past. But this is a new opportunity. This is a new experience, and you don't want to bring any of that baggage with you. And you don't want to leave a sour taste in the interviewers' mouths by thinking that you are holding on to these grudges or you're not able to get over that toxic experience that you had in your past. So do not, under any circumstance, talk negatively about anyone that you've worked with in the past, bosses or coworkers or organizations. Do not blame others. This is a new and exciting opportunity for you. So keep it positive. So hopefully those 10 tips of what not to do in an interview have been helpful. If you liked this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And please leave me some comments. I want to know what you liked, what you didn't like, what type of content you're looking for, because I am looking to be as helpful to you as possible. I look at and read every comment that comes through, and I do my best to respond to each one individually. So if you haven't, please drop a comment below. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so that you can receive life-work balance advice delivered directly to you every Sunday. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.